Yeah, I'm losing my edge.
All the puppet talk aside, Pete, let's talk about profiting from futures volatility. Anything else from this prior conversation that nobody cares about. But I mean, at the end of the day, are Muppets, are they the puppets with the hand or are they the string? It's a question I can't answer, but I can answer today how you could profit from futures volatility, because we're getting it, Pete. We're getting it all over the place. Today, we're getting it intraday in STIX, the small technology 60 futures from the small exchange. But we've been getting it for weeks now in small precious metals, SPRE, and small US dollar, showing terrific back and forth compared to STIX. And you and I talk about back and forth constantly. And I wanted to go a little deeper on that today. And to do that, I want to look at just the last 10 trading sessions. You have some great opportunity here in precious metals, Pete, more than 2 weeks back. But the last 10 trading sessions have been great examples of this back and forth and how people could potentially profit from that back and forth in these three asset classes.
Right. Absolutely. And, you know, it's funny. We had bought some precious metals about 10 minutes ago, and I just took them off at 60. So we flipped them for a $25 scalp. So and you talk about tradable opportunity, that $25 scalp in the matter of 10 minutes, just trying to fiddle around with trying to pick a bottom in one of the metals. These metals have gotten awfully sold off. Got an idea about a quick sell. And I'm not saying, look at me, I'm a genius. Not at all. Because they could have, they could have.
You don't even know what Buffets are. You're not a genius.
Yeah, but far from. I am on the. When you look up the antonym of genius, that's where my picture resides within.
I think it'd be a donkey, like a jackass, if you will.
But see, there you go. Bring that up also. I'm going to put together a list and forward it to the team, because there's a lot that needs to be discussed this week at the meeting.
Don't forward it to the small exchange HR team. That would be problematic. But what's great about what you're bringing up here, Pete, is everybody gets so caught up in, I need to sell the most expensive. I need to buy the cheapest here.
There's nothing else to do within that. And here's all the stuff you can do within it. Absolutely. And do it, for so many of us, as much as we think that, a $7 move in gold, that's $700. You know what? It doesn't feel good to a lot of us. It feels great when we make it. But if we were back down to 1938, all of us would have been feeling really bad about that $700. Here is something where you can consistently put together manageable wins and losses and get comfortable around a product. So I think this is, you know what? You would say, well, there's not, looking at that chart, there's not much movement. There is back and forth every day of a scale and a size that makes them very comfortable.
Yeah, and this is what we mean by back and forth. Like we talked about earlier this week, Pete, price extremes, which have their place, but they take more time than your 20-minute SPRE trade that you just put on. When you're looking for shorter term, futures, this futures market is volatile, and I'm just looking for short-term potential profits here. We're talking about 7 of the last 10 days being opposite directions in SPRE, 8 of the last 10 in small US dollar SFX being opposite days. And then, as you could imagine, tech stocks, only 2 of the last 10 days exhibiting opposite direction from the day before. And that's not great for those short-term opportunities that we're talking about. And moving a little bit further, this is what I absolutely love to see here, Pete, is in the last 10 days, a net change in SPRE of 41 cents. That's $41. SFX, 54 cents, $54. And you'd say, man, in the last 10 days, it hasn't moved. How could you make any money? These markets have moved almost $1,000 in SPRE, that's just from close to close, not even taking into account the intraday highs and lows. Just from close to close, it's covered almost $10 of range for a net change of just 40 cents. That is back and forth. And same here with SFX, but to a muted degree because currencies aren't as volatile as metals, but still covering $4.50 almost of range and only changing half of a dollar. That means that you could buy, sell a lot in the last 10 days. You look at STIX here, and this isn't to say that STIX is a bad product or that you shouldn't trade stocks. It's just what's volatile and what's not. And right now, stocks are not volatile because you can see the net change in STIX is up almost $3. And the ground that it's covered is just $3.80. So not a lot of back and forth for you to trade there.
Right. No, and I think that manageable back and forth piece and the idea of, we talk about product indifference, and we had an interesting discussion with somebody who is just a very focused equity trader, and the idea of why do I want to trade other things? And, I'm having success with this. Sure. Anybody who has bought an equity in the last 2 months is having all kinds of success.
They're Warren Buffett.
Everyone's a true rocket scientist up to a certain point. But part of what we do, because of moves like that where we catch it, we're always looking for opportunity to have an increased number of outcomes. Because the one thing we know over time, and this is not gauging your success over 2 months, you want to be in the game and be profitable over years. This is something you want to do. Diversification is a key component of that. So being able to adopt other product, and I think this really talks about that travel, which is so important here for opportunity back and forth. And that's what's really interesting here. If I could pick up that travel and that diversification without having to get lost in the minutia of selection and education. And what I mean by education is understanding nuance of specific products. That's good. And that's what is really important about this. Ideally, you want to, sure, everybody hears about equities and love. You know what? You hear about metals every day too. And you know what? You're exposed to more dollar than anything else you have in the world. Your house, your car, every stock you own is priced in dollars. Wouldn't it be great to have some diversification from that?
Not to mention that the foreign exchange trading community is one of the largest in the world. And
that's a great point.
Unfortunately, a lot of the people who are on those message boards, on those Twitter accounts and everything like that, they can't go over and trade FX because, like you're saying, Pete, it's too much education. Do I trade Mexican peso? Do I trade the euro? Do I trade British sterling? And what do these prices and everything look like? These are simple personifications of these different asset classes that right now, two of which, metals and FX, are showing a lot of, like you said, distance covered for little net change, a lot of back and forth short-term opportunity relative to stocks that have just been straight up, man. And if you bought them, you're sitting pretty, but there's no opportunity in being an active trader. And this is what I absolutely love here, is a market that, if you're looking at the white line, this is our metals index that you can trade the futures on, SPRE. And you see here, from start to finish in the last 10 days, has not been displaced at all. Less than 50 cents, less than $50 of displacement. But look at all the ground it's covered. Right. New lows, a bounce back of a full dollar. New lows again over the next 2 or 3 days, a bounce back of $2 here. Down, up, up. And then today, it isn't even factoring in because I made these charts yesterday. Sorry, everybody. But now this market is back. This market's back down to 78.5.
Right.
So now you've got a market that's back down again. And the same here with currencies is you've got this market from start to finish that's only about 50 cents lower than where it started 10 sessions ago. Up, down, bounce back, down. And now it's sitting at the lowest. And now today, guess what? It's up 50 cents. And so now this line is actually up here closer to where it started 10 sessions ago. This is how futures volatility can be potentially profitable. This is what back and forth is for the active trader.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? If you did that with the stock, 24 cents, even if you did it on 100 shares, isn't enough to transactionally and capital-wise make any logical sense. It just doesn't work. It's like, it's like dragging around a 20,000 pound trailer behind your little electric car. It just doesn't work.
Absolutely.
You don't get anywhere. Here's a case where all the benefits of futures, but size to a point that's interesting. And I love the fact you talk about the scope of movement here. That NASDAQ high to low was $6,000. Here's a scope of movement. Do you want to make it more? It's easy enough. You add your, and that actually is a way to diversify location, which is a good thing. But you can start from a very manageable point, and that's it. You want staying in the game is as important as being profitable in the game.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind. We all go from this is cool to how, you know what, I'm making money in it. Staying in the game, part of that is the mechanics around opportunity, being able to identify it, and then being able to size it appropriately. I mean, you look at it, and I love that you brought this context together, because you look at the differing trade opportunities across just these two products on a day where you can argue, oh, you know what, the entire world is just looking at NASDAQ because they're all long Amazon, Apple, and whatever the other two are, Microsoft. And that's the only interesting thing. Sure, if you want to trade sticks, you got tech all you want.
Yeah.
But the true, you know, the true piece as you move forward in your journey of diversification and adding different opportunities, this really, you couldn't have built a better representation of that right here.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at these y-axes and you've got just a high to low range of $300 here the last 10 sessions in SPRE futures, a high to low range of about $200 here in / SFX futures, and margins that are right around there, $400 or $500. You're trying to trade with stock to get that range of $300 or $400. You're going to need to put up thousands. And then, you talk about traditional futures. This high to low range would be thousands and thousands of dollars. And so these are products that fit and help you stay in that game for potential profiting.